Good evening, family. How are you all doing, virtual villagers out there? I hope you all are doing well. It is another Thursday, and we are happy to be here with you guys. If you don't know, I am Star Armstrong, the founder of Clever Communities in Action. And next to me, I have my wonderful co host, the one and only Mr. Rodney Jordan. Rodney, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing just great. Doing great. Good to see you again as always. I think I just saw you a couple of days ago, working on some things, and but glad to be here again and being with the virtual village.
Yes, yes, it's always a wonderful occasion for us to get together with you guys. We have some great reads for you all tonight, and we're super, super excited about what is to come for our fall season. We got some wonderful things that we're working on for you guys. The things that you are familiar with, that you love, will still be here, but some new elements are coming, so stay tuned. But also make sure that you stay tuned for this, okay?
Look, mommy, community in action. But oh my, let us down to that. Look, daddy, there's a book for me too. But oh my, let us down to that. Creative, affirming, and culture for me too. Look, granny, and let us down to that. Look, granny, and let us down to that. Look, granny, and let us down to that. Learning, exploring about history, you see. Look, mommy, and let us down to that. We confident, we practice and develop fluency. Look, daddy, and let us down to that. Families, they bonding, they representing me. Look, granny, and let us down to that. Look, I'm here, let us down to that. Nice, I see, let us down to that.
So reliable, culturally relevant. Sit back and listen to the wisdom while we represent. So reliable, culturally relevant. Readers to leaders, they hold it down where they have to sit. So reliable, culturally relevant. Sit back and listen to the wisdom while you represent. So reliable, culturally relevant. Readers to leaders, they hold it down, yeah, they have to sit.
Look, mommy, community in action. Well, oh my, let us down to that. Look, daddy, there's a book for me too. Well, oh my, let us down to that. Creative, affirming, culture for me too. Look, granny, let us down to that.
Look, Granny, I love the sound of that. Look, Mommy, I love the sound of that. I forever loving the sound of that. And we have some wonderful, wonderful villagers in the comment section. We have Portia. She said, "Good evening, good people. Good evening, sis. Hope you and your beautiful tribe are doing well." And then we also have a greeting from Miss Keisha. Hope that she and the beautiful Shania are doing well. Is this Shania commenting or is this you? Because we haven't seen Shania's comments up here in a minute. I'm feeling some kind of way about this. Where's baby girl? We hope that we know she's up to wonderful things, and all of our virtual village little ones are embarking on this virtual learning journey. And from what we've been seeing from social media, they are crushing it. The children and the parents are crushing it. I've seen Shania up to some wonderful things, and she had a funny story about something that happened in her class the other day. And Peyton and Braylon are doing some wonderful, wonderful things. So we're just really enjoying that. And for all the parents who have been sharing your experiences thus far, we understand that it's a completely different scenario, but a lot of you guys are really, really, really being creative, exercising that Kumba, really being patient and making wonderful things happen. Shout out to the teachers who are teaching in a completely different type of environment, something they never would have thought of before. And I know all the teachers that I know, they have been putting their all into it right up to before things got started. So much anticipation and concentration, and just wanted to make sure that they put their best foot forward for their students. So it's been, I mean, the time is the time that it is now. And we're seeing people definitely make the best of it. What about you, Rodney? What have you been seeing out there?
No, I agree with you. I would just add to the list. We're gonna go down the list. The custodians never stop. The nutrition workers never stop. They've been out there and still taking care of families and children and making sure folks are getting paid. The support staff been taking all the phone calls, the requests for transfers, the tech support staff, the manning help desk, and we can just go on and on and on. There are a lot of folks uh, that we don't always recognize that really do provide that web, that strength, that network, that glue. And then the principals and the assistant principals. I mean, they even in some places where the teachers may not be in the building or the others may not be in the building, the principals and assistant principals, they still been staffing those buildings and meeting with parents as appropriate, whether that's online or temporarily in person. So it's been a lot of work that's been going on, even in the midst of all of this. So shout out to all of them who've been doing their best to hold things down under some trying situations, but we're gonna get through this.
Yes, definitely. So, Miss Keisha says that she kind of loves virtual. I've heard a teacher friend of mine say that as well. So we have that perspective from a parent and from a teacher. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And she also says Shania is in jazz class. Of course she is. Of course she is. We'll tell her that we asked about her and we miss her. Hopefully, we'll see her soon, as well as Peyton and Braylon and our other little villagers out there and our big villagers out there. This night, I know that yesterday I was in a little mood, and I've seen some other people posting about what's going on in our society right now. And we got the verdict back in the Breonna Taylor trial, and I know that a lot of people have been feeling down, feeling somber, all of these different ways, a wave of emotions that people are feeling. I posted racial.
I'm sorry, I did that by accident. That was my fault.
Say
it again. Nope.
Are you trying to censor me?
I was trying to mute myself. I'm sorry. Say it again.
I said, racial fatigue, I think, is something that we experience constantly. It's the waves of it come stronger at times than others. However, I believe that we need to be strategic in how we move collectively and how we move as a household. And also the things that we are good at, the things that we know to do, the talents that we bring, the bravery that we have. Go hard with the things that you know are the ways in which you can make change. Right here, literacy is liberation. And I know that what we're doing here with Clever Communities in Action has and continues and will continue to empower our youth and families. So I take a lot of that angst, I take a lot of those feelings and throw it into just more impact. I let it inspire me, because I know while there are other things that I, do and work with people sometimes in regards to our plight, the thing that I'm good at and the thing that I know, it just fuels me and compels me to go harder in the name of the lives that have been lost, in the name of making sure that our children are better equipped for the terrain in which they will be traveling. So that's what this is all about. Again, literacy is liberation. And so y'all, let's get free. Let's get free tonight. All right. I know that I have some reads for you all, and I know that Mr. Jordan has some reads. And we're gonna go, unless you had something that you wanted to add to that, we're gonna jump right on into the literacy time. That's a no?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. I'm with you. I'm nodding my head with the yes. Let's go on with the literacy tab.
All right, the literacy tab. Okay,
yes.
So I'm gonna let him go anywhere. We're gonna do this like we did last week, and we'll stay up here with each other. I'm not gonna take a pecan break. He reads and he'll stay. I think you guys enjoyed that. So I am back with this book. Now I still have not had the time to go through it really, but last week when I read it, it hit me with a surprise that I wasn't ready for, if y'all were tuned in. So hopefully I can make it through this one without getting sad or angry. Okay. So I know these people as Facebook friends. So the book is edited by Wade Hudson and Cheryl Willis Hudson, and We Rise, We Resist, We Raise Voices. And on this particular one, it's What shall we tell you? Wade Hudson, illustration by Floyd Cooper. Um, Now I want to say what this book is. It says, in this divisive world, what do we tell our children? It features essays, letters, poems, and stories from 50 of the foremost children's authors and illustrators, including Kwame Alexander, Jason Reynolds, Jacqueline Woodson, Ikua Holmes, Rafael Lopez, Inosanta Nagara, and many more. So quite a few of these are my Facebook friends and people I have met or conversed with. So that's really dope. But I'm gonna get on in here with this one again. What shall we tell you? And Floyd Cooper is always coming with that illustration. Okay. He's a beast with the illustration. A lot of the classics, we know he did those. Okay. So, what should we tell you when our world sometimes seems dark and uninviting? What should we tell you when hateful words that wound and bully are thrown like bricks against a wall, shattering into debris? What should we tell you when respect for others and treating others as we wish to be treated appear as yesterday's borrowed wish? What should we tell you when our differences are juggled like fragile eggs that could be smashed at a moment's impulse? What shall we tell you? What shall we tell you? What should we tell you that love, like cream and milk, we shall tell you that love, like cream and milk, will rise to the top, and hatred and distrust will be revealed as imposters. We shall tell you that peace, desirable like a restful night after a long day of play, is not far away. Reach for it. We shall tell you that respect for others, like a delicious ice cream bar dripping on holding fingers, tastes better than contempt. We shall tell you that we love you, all of you, and because we love you, we will be there to help bring light to the dark places. We will be there with peace and justice as our weapons and love as a soothing salve to comfort and embrace. We shall tell you that because we will be there for you, always be there for you, it will be all right. It will be all right. So this is what these are letters to our children. You know, I always have a little commentary. Everybody's not going to love you. I think we as the village need to make sure that we surround our children with love, that we practice those guerrilla love tactics that I said, even if it feels uncomfortable. All of our children, that we are protecting them and loving on them. But the reality is not everybody is going to love them. Not everybody is going to see the best in them. But we equip them with understanding how valuable they are, how strong they are, how powerful they are, and make sure that we, as their immediate circle and their village, that they know that where love is. So even if they step outside of love, they know where to go back and find love and be refilled up on love and to not feel depleted because love may not always be all the way around them. But this was a good piece, and again, I really dig the illustration.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now let me serve this song.
Well, you know, from time to time, I've been reading from this book, Dark Sky Rising, by Henry Louis Gates Jr. And I shared before that this was his first, I guess, history book, so to speak, that he wrote in particular for young people. And I've been reading chapters from here and there. So I would like to read chapter 10. It's titled The Mighty Current. The Mighty Current. So despite Jim Crow's long reign against daunting mountainous odds, African Americans persevered. They pressed on with their ambitions to attend college, get an education, own a home, or start a business. A multitude of proud, determined men and women also gave of their time and of their treasure to groups devoted to racial uplift and to pushing back against the negative stereotypes of Black people so pervasive during the Jim Crow era. So many refused to be defeated. So many refused to give up on the hope that their country one day would live up to the glorious ideal that all people are created equal, that all people deserve to live unfettered and free. So many as essentially had as their motto that of the school Nanny Burroughs would open in Washington, D.C. in 1909. Quote, "We specialize in the wholly impossible," end quote. It was in Washington, D.C. in July 1896, 2 months after the Plessy decision, that Black women formed the National Association of Colored Women, NACW. NACW was a merger of the National Federation of African American Women, founded in Boston, and the National League of Colored Women, headquartered in DC. Josephine St. Pierre Ruffin spearheaded the conference. Founding the Women's Era Club and the Women's Era, the nation's first newspaper aimed at Black women, are just two of her achievements. Joining Ruffin in the formation of the NACW was Ida B. Wells, writer Frances E.W. Harper, Harriet Tubman, then in her 70s, and Victoria Earl Matthews, soon to found the White Rose Mission, a settlement home in New York City. NACW's first president was Mary Church Terrell, daughter of the prominent Memphis businessman Robert Church. Terrell, fluent in French, German, and Italian, had earned her bachelor's and master's degrees from Oberlin College, then lived in Europe for 2 years. She had recently been appointed to the Washington, D.C. Board of Education when elected to the NACW's first president. As an umbrella organization for Black women's clubs around the nation, NACW raised money for schools, libraries, and charities, as well as for concerts and other cultural events. NACW raised awareness of racial wrongs, from lynchings to Black voter suppression in the South. It also campaigned for women to have the national vote, not achieved until 1920. The organization, still a powerhouse today as the National Association of Colored Women's Clubs, took as its motto, "Lifting as we climb." Black men were hardly idle. In March 1897, a small group of intellectuals established the American Negro Academy, ANA, a literary society and think tank. Founding members included the northern-born debonair W.E.B. Du Bois, a graduate of Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, and the first Black person to earn a PhD from Harvard University in 1895. At the time of the ANA's founding, Dr. Du Bois was a professor at Atlanta University, now Clark Atlanta, like Fisk, another historically Black school created during Reconstruction. The publication of Du Bois's seminal collection of essays, The Souls of Black Folk, was 6 years away. The princely Episcopal priest, Alexander Crummell, was the ANA's president. Born free in New York City in 1819, Crummell earned his bachelor's degree in England at the University of Cambridge in 1853. He went on to teach at Liberia College in Liberia, West Africa, where he lived for 20 years. The papers that the ANA produced include The Status of the Free Negro Prior to 1860 by Lafayette M. Hershaw, a Washington, D.C. civil servant and journalist. Another is The Economic Contribution by the Negro in America by New York Arthur Schomburg. This Afro-Puerto Rican man's collection of Black history-related books, pamphlets, and ephemera became the foundation for today's Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, a branch of the New York Public Library located in Harlem, New York. ANA members, like other Black strivers, did not merely want their nation to recognize what their people were capable of, they wanted the whole world to know. For this cause, in the spring of 1900, Du Bois headed to the World's Fair in Paris, France. So I'm going to pause there, and we'll come back to a little bit more in this chapter after I get a chance to tag you back in, Ms. Starr.
All right. Well, good stuff there. And I enjoy going to the Schomburg Center. Have you been there before?
It's been a while, but I have been there. Yes.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years for me too, but I've been there a few times and I enjoy it. Got to get back up there when we're able to get around how we really want to get around. Definitely a wonderful visit up there in New York. It's in Harlem, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I enjoy that. I definitely enjoy that. So now I am tagged back in here. So it's time for me to jump in. So I'm going to stay in this book. I had another book that I was going to do, but I was like, oh, why not just stay right here in this lovely place? A lot of colors in here. And again, these are letters written by Black authors to our children considering the times, the current racial climate, and the things that our youth are having to deal with. So these are letters penned. So I'm going to read this one. Another Facebook friend. I'm so excited to be friends with these wonderful authors. And it is When I Think of You by Sharon G. Flake. Um, how are you, my love? Well, I hope. I've been thinking about you lately. So I wanted to check in to make sure you're okay. I see you draped in confidence, walking like you own the world, looking fine, skateboarding, protesting injustice, helping out friends. My heart sings at the thought of what is possible for us here on earth because you exist. What I admire about you most is your smile, your ability to make jokes in nearly any situation, and just how creative and entrepreneurial you are. I didn't have your courage and tenacity when I was young. Everything scared me. Boys taking risks, being judged. Yet here I am. I made it through all my personal trials and tribulations, the world's too. You will also. Count on it. But know this, the world is larger than your school and neighborhood, crazier than ever, it seems. Has it gotten you down, made you feel as if you aren't as brave or in control as you once thought you were? If so, I understand. We had the Vietnam War and discrimination. My dad had Jim Crow, the Depression, and World War II. Every generation faces a series of storms that seem insurmountable. Your generation is no different. The internet and cable news stream reports to us nightly another black boy shot and killed by the police. Families torn apart as parents get deported, swastikas and nooses peppering our landscape like weeds, adults berating and brawling with their neighbors and constituents. Even the climate seems discontent, determined to bring out the worst in us all. Thankfully, it's in the nature of youth to look at the landscape, no matter how charred and forlorn, and see new growth, new opportunity, and visions of possibilities. Do you still see what is possible? What's good and everlasting despite the times and conditions we live in? Do you understand how important you and other youth are to us? When I think of you, I think of those who have come before you, young and resilient. They lived during history's most tumultuous times and left their mark. Muhammad Ali, formerly Cassius Clay, was one of them. At 12, he was an amateur boxer. By 18, he was an Olympic gold medalist who later raised his fist against injustice. Malala Yousafzai from Pakistan was shot by terrorists who didn't think girls should attend school. At 17, Malala won a Nobel Peace Prize for her bravery and efforts to educate girls. There are others like you there, ordinary citizens like these. Alicia Garza, co-founder of Black Lives Matter. Emmett Till, brutally murdered for allegedly whistling at a white woman. His death launched the civil rights era. Anne Frank, whose diary of her Holocaust experiences and continued faith in mankind impacted millions. Claudette Colvin, who refused to give a white person her seat on the bus. Glad to hear her mentioned. William Kamkwamba, who at the age of 14 built a windmill to power his parents' home in Malawi, Africa. Because of William, his family and village had running water and electricity for the first time. Hard times do not always harden people. Often they reveal what we're made of, who we are inside. I believe you are amazing. That if you take care of yourself and your heart, you will add much value to the planet in your own special way. So again, I ask, how are you? Are you having fun during these tough times? Are you serving others while being kind and concerned about yourself? Good, because I need you to know you are loved, you are needed, and you were born for such a time as this. Blessings on your journey. Your fan and cheerleader, Sharon G. Flake.
That's nice. You have an editorial to go with that one?
Well, you know I always do. Again, nice that Claudette Colvin was added in here. Definitely echoing the sentiments of this lovely letter that we love our young people, we love our youth, our babies, our teens, our young adults, that we are proud of them. We are the village, we have their backs. And they are built for this. Like she mentioned, every generation has had its turmoil. And yet we persevere and we make our mark. So you guys will make your marks. Some of you are making your mark already. And then I just like to mention things like this. I understand she can't do it in a piece like this, but that's the beautiful thing about when you're reading, it brings up ways to, talk about, have sidebars. So when she talked about the young man who built a windmill to power his parents' home in Malawi, Africa, I just want to remind any young people who are tuned in, because a lot of times we'll think about places that are called so-called third world countries and just think that because a windmill is being built in, the 2000s or something, like what is wrong with that place, or that is some lesser place. But let's understand that colonization happens in those places, which means that European nations came in and took over by force these different countries and undermined the stability that they had there. And then a lot of them just left. They just left, and they messed up things with the people. They messed up things with the land, with growth and development. And they left and they took resources and money away. So people were having to start over from further back than they would have been without that interruption. So that's why that is there. It is not that other countries and nations are just backwards. There are a lot of things that go on to make them not be as developed as westernized countries that we're familiar with, such as our own countries in Europe and all of that. So it's very good to have that context as to why those things are that way. Even when we look at here in the United States, and we look at certain neighborhoods that are predominantly Black, and we may wonder why the conditions are that way. Well, she mentioned her parents growing up during Jim Crow, different things that occurred to destabilize communities, neighborhoods, and countries. So we have to understand that. And that's what goes on down here at Clever Communities in Action. We talk about, literacy is liberation. Literacy is the foundation of learning, but literacy is liberation. So when our young people have a grasp of these things, and when we have an environment where we can come and read these wonderful love letters to our children, read the information that Rodney has been giving, these historic facts, and then we can have these sidebars and really break it down and dismantle these or just not even dismantle, because there was nothing that needed to be dismantled here, but we have the opportunity. She gave us a beautiful canvas, and then we can add some things to it, right? So that's Clever Communities in Action. Yeah. Look, mommy, community in action. Yes. So we have Chris here, former classmate of mine, schoolmate, and he said, what level of literature? So I don't know if we want to expand on that question. Do you mean what we're reading right now or what we usually read? I can answer you that with this. I feel like this would probably be a middle grades book, but nonetheless, it's a wonderful family one. This is the one where I see the family sitting around. If it was independent reading, I'd probably say middle grades. But if you're gonna sit down together as a family, then it can be your smallest one. you're a kindergartner on up to a high schooler. And there's some wonderful things to go in through here with We Rise, We Resist, We Raise Our Voices. Now, ordinarily what we read, it varies. We're on our new program session, so make sure you guys tune in because we're going to go into that. Things are going to get a little more, we'll be explaining to you guys exactly. It'll be a little more in depth with this, okay? So the things you're familiar with will still be here, the things you like, but we're gonna add some really, really nice new things into the mix. But at any given time, right now, we may read one for little ones, we may read one for middle grades, and anything in between there. And you are welcome to come on here and read as well. We have some people ready to go for our new season. So make sure that you are one of them. We would love to have you. We definitely would. So now it is time again for me to, this time I'm going to do it like the influencers do it. And I'm going to pass it over to you. Did you catch it? Slow mo. That was
looks like you did the right way. Is that the right way?
The opposite way of what it really is. That was a slow pitch I gave you there.
Yes. Yeah. So, I was read a little bit earlier from chapter 10 in this book, and this is a book, as I mentioned earlier, that Gates designed for what he described as young readers. The intent of this book is to introduce the Civil War, Reconstruction, in a particular context for young readers. I'm gonna go back to an earlier chapter, chapter 5, the ballot with which to save ourselves, and this is as emancipation was declared and Reconstruction was underway or about to start, and how former enslaved Africans were beginning to mobilize to try to make sure that their franchise could be secured and their right to participate in the country that they built. I mean, you were just speaking a minute ago about first worlds and second worlds and third worlds. Well, what is absolutely clear and that's in common is that a lot of that wealth that was accrued by the so-called first world was a result of others in their free labor and their natural resources being put to bear for somebody else's riches that they then have been able to pass on generation to generation, now in many instances for hundreds of years.
Well, you know, the president is making sure that the real history is being told, and so that does not include what you just apparently you're talking about some fake news there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go down that path at this point in time. But I will say, with all the issues now, since you mentioned the president, and we're talking about ballots and votes and the critical importance of people exercising that right, I'm just going to share this chapter. African Americans did more than just watch and wait. They organized, brimming with the hope for a dawn of a new day. Alexandria, Virginia, Boston, Massachusetts, Charleston, South Carolina, Detroit, Michigan, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Little Rock, Arkansas, New Haven, Connecticut, Raleigh, North Carolina, Xenia, Ohio, East, West, North, South, all over the nation, Black citizens held state and regional conventions to discuss the issues of the day and strategize on the way forward. They drafted addresses to the nation for the vote, for citizenship, for an end to the violence, for respect and recognition of their humanity. Quote, "We are engaged in a serious task. We have met here to impress upon the white men of Tennessee, of the United States, and of the world that we are part and parcel of the American Republic," end quote. So said Reverend James Lynch at a convention in Nashville in August 1865. Quote, "In pursuance of the great work thus begun, we are here to secure for ourselves the full recognition of our rights as men, end quote. During the war, this native of Baltimore, who had studied for the ministry at New Hampshire's Kimball Union Academy, engaged in missionary work in Union occupied South Carolina and Georgia. Lynch was one of the ministers who met with General Sherman shortly before he issued his Special Field Order number 15. Especially in the rural South, there was also clandestine gatherings to disseminate information and to bolster people's courage to persevere. Many meetings were organized by the pro-Republican Union League during the Civil War. After the war ceased, the League expanded its numbers of operatives working in the South. Frederick Douglass, ever the lion, ever taking the nation to task for not living up to its creed, led a band of his brothers to the White House in early February 1866. Surprisingly, President Johnson had granted them an audience. The men who accompanied Douglass included his son Lewis, entrepreneur George T. Downing, one of Rhode Island's most prominent and wealthiest Black residents, and educator John F. Cook, a member of Black DC's Black aristocracy. The delegation went to the White House to urge the president to get behind Black suffrage. In urging Johnson to support Black men having, quote, the battle with which to save ourselves, end quote, Frederick Douglass reminded him that Lincoln had given Black men, quote, the sword to assist in saving the nation, end quote. The president countered that if Black men secured the vote, there would be violence in the South. Yes, I have said, and I repeat here, he stated, that if the colored man in the United States could find no other Moses or any Moses that would be more able and efficient than myself, I would be his Moses to lead him from bondage to freedom, that I would pass him from a land where he had lived in slavery to a land, if it were in our reach, of freedom. Yes, I would be willing to pass with him through the Red Sea to the land of promise, to the land of liberty, but I am not willing under these or under either circumstance to adopt a policy which I believe will result in the sacrifice of his life and the shedding of his blood. While Black people were organizing, protesting, petitioning, Congress served up the Civil Rights Act of 1866, a counterpunch to the Black codes. With the exception of Native Americans living on reservations, people born on American soil were deemed citizens of the nation. What's more, the federal government was duty-bound to protect the property and the lives of all its citizens. Congress passed the Civil Rights Act over Johnson's veto on April 9, 1866, a year to the day of Lee's surrender to Grant. 2 months after the Civil Rights Act on June 13, 1866, something even more momentous cleared Congress, the 14th Amendment. Through it, Republicans endeavored to embed citizenship directly into the U.S. Constitution, 9 years after the U.S. Supreme Court said in its Dred Scott decision that Black people never were and never would be U.S. citizens. Quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside, said the 14th Amendment. It also declared that states could not deprive citizens of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, or deny them, quote, equal protection of the laws. Furthermore, the 14th Amendment pressures states to give Black men the vote by giving Congress the power to reduce a state's representation if that state denied the vote to any segment of its male population aged 21 and older. The amendment also put a check on aspirations of former Confederate leaders. Unless approved by 2/3 of the House and Senate, they could hold no military, civilian, or elected office. Congress had the option of removing the ban, which it did in 1898. Also vexing for the former Confederate states, the 14th Amendment prohibited the federal government or any state from absorbing debts racked up in the aid of the rebellion or losses incurred with the liberation of Black people. White violence was a factor in the 14th Amendment clearing Congress. The previous month, on May 1st, 1866, white people went on a killing spree in Memphis, Tennessee. Approximately 46 Black adults and children and 2 white people were killed. More than 70 people were wounded. Nearly 100 Black homes were torched. 12 Black schools were burned. Several Black churches were left in ashes. Large sums of Black people's money were taken by police and others, wrote the Freedmen Bureau Major T.W. Gilbreth to his boss, General Oliver O. Howard. The thefts ranged from $5 to $500. Quote, the latter being quite frequent, owing to the fact that many of the colored men had just been paid off and discharged from the army, end quote. The 36-hour assault on the Black settlements in Memphis came on the heels of an altercation between Irish policemen and Black soldiers. A rumor spread that Black troops had killed white police officers. In response, the city recorder, John C. Creighton, took to his soapbox on the corner of Causey and Vance Streets. Creighton reported Gilbreth, quote, urged the whites to arm themselves and kill every Negro and drive the last one from this city, end quote. Creighton even prodded white people to, quote, burn up the cradle, end quote. A multitude of Black people remained strong in the face of all the violence. Union Army veteran Wyatt Outlaw was among the steadfast souls. In October 1866, he was one of the 113 delegates at the 4-day North Carolina Equal Rights League Convention of Freedmen. Raleigh's African American Episcopal Church was the venue for this gathering of Black men representing 60 Tar Heel counties. Wyatt Outlaw was on the executive board of this Equal Rights League, determined, quote, to secure by political and moral means, as far as may be, the repeal of all laws and parts of laws, state and national, that make distinctions on account of color, end quote. After the convention, Outlaw formed a chapter of the Union League in its adopted home of Graham. Along with mobilizing folks for political action, this chapter made plans to build a school and a church. Outlaw organized Graham's Union League in his home on North Main Street, which was also the site of his carpentry shop. Like many other Black men and women in their respective communities, Wyatt Outlaw continued to be a positive force in Graham for years to come. So it's quite interesting how you read something like that and you hear about mobs in the street and you hear about violence, and this was 1860s, and then you think about where we are in 2020s and how things are described, and what we see on TV, and how people can be stereotyped and unfairly, broadly chastised and castigated. You know, history is important. Otherwise, one can very quickly get the idea that certain things are only isolated to certain people, as some would like for us to believe.
Yeah, you got my leg up here shaking in anger as you're reading that. But again, literacy is liberation. And so much of what we are doing here is about making sure that our children have a love of reading, that families are reading together, but that we are reading things where children see themselves represented, and that we are reading things that tell us the truth about the history and culture of this country, of this world, and the contributions of Black people. So this is super important. I always talk about, when these things are brought up, domestic terrorism and the trauma in which Black communities are, still dealing with to this day, and things that are still remnants, how racial disparities that we see now are a result of that. When people have a head start, where they have generational wealth that goes back to the 1800s, as you're talking about, and people who came straight out of enslavement without being able to read, many of them, without having any rights, without having any property, but they come out with nothing, but they build and they create and they sustain only to have things. You said 36 hours. 36 hours. So if someone was attacking you for 36 minutes, that's a long time. If you said Sheer, he was attacked for 36 minutes, it went on, you would be like, wow. So 36 hours, a reign of terror, domestic terrorism. As you said, the story gets told as who are the savages, who are the violent ones, who are the problematic ones. Well, there's a foundation of terror here and abuse. Okay. So if I would say, if you want to call that the case, then I say, dear United States of America, I learned it from watching you. Like the old commercial in the 1980s. I learned it from watching you. Okay. So
context matters.
Yeah.
Context matters. And I think where you speak of literacy being liberation, there's the literacy of being able to read. There's the literacy of comprehending what you read. And then there's the literacy to be able to act upon your understanding of what you have read. And so I think it's important that we provide these venues and these platforms for these conversations and for this context. And as you were partially teasing me earlier about what was the president calling it, his 1776 commission or something like that, in many ways, that is an effort to try to push back against putting things in context and having all of our citizens in this country understanding this context. We know the importance of propaganda that has played in everything from justifying slavery and lynchings. We know how religion has been used as a tool. And so being able to have our children read and understand, being able for us, in essence, what we're doing in this virtual village is what we heard our ancestors do before. They said that they stole away. They had conversations. They strategized together. They had conversations about what they were going to do to make sure that they were protected and that this country lived up to the ideals that it has espoused. So we have so much technology today, so much ability to reach out today, so many tools at our fingertips today. There's just no excuse whatsoever for us to not leverage those assets that we have, both the assets that we physically have and the assets that we know that we carry in our minds and in our spirit and our soul to make sure that we continue to strive forward.
You better say that. We have author Daryl Davis in the house, one of our VA's one of VA's finest authors here. He does wonderful things with children's books, tells great stories, and modestly, comes around like, yeah, I'm an author, and then just blows everybody away, But that's how the talent around this virtual village does. That's what they do. They come up here and they act like, oh yeah, I'm just Daryl, I'm just an author, and then has not a dry eye in the house, or I'm just Shania, I'm just here to read tonight, and then has everybody in amazement and wonderment, I'm just Peyton, I'm just here, and then write a whole theme song. So that's what this village is all about. All these wonderful people here. Good to see you guys. We have Miss Tiffany here. She said, hello, you guys, late but here, better late than never. And we are so glad to see you. Want to hear how things are going on with you and your little ones. Definitely. He is laughing, but that's what he does. That's what he did,
So let me just say one thing to Miss Tiffany. Mr. Tiffany, don't forget that you owe us something. So you're going to be getting an email from me very soon. So I need you to follow through on what you owe us. Okay?
Come on, sis, it's way past time, okay? Why are you doing us like this? We are going to welcome you with open arms. We look forward to having you up here. And Rodney, when you mentioned those 3 components of literacy, those 3 layers of literacy, we continue to talk about the new programming that is coming. So we will hit on all of those components. So run those back again. Run those back.
You want me to, let's see, what did I say? There's literacy to read. There is literacy to comprehend. And then there's literacy to act on your understanding of what you have read to make a difference.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I need to learn how to do it in Kiswahili. So we have all of those components that are coming. The things you like, these conversations that we have, these stories that are being read, people coming on here to read, all of that is here. But we're bringing history to you in some more fun, exciting ways. We are using our youth in wonderful ways that you have not seen them yet. They're going to be up here doing some wonderful things, some familiar faces, some new faces, some facts that you guys may not be aware of. We are getting this, because for me, I'm all about, when you talk about propaganda, that's one of the biggest things, propaganda, dogma, that have shaped the landscape of this country and the world. So it's indoctrination that begins to happen and people don't understand it. But we want to start a foundation where our children are hearing, and anybody tuned in, where they are able to hear the truth, hear the things that are not spoken about in schools, in classrooms, that you don't typically hear growing up. And sometimes you hear about it when you become a full-fledged adult for the first time. So we're going to introduce that at young ages, but in creative ways. And like I said, the stories are still here, and it's going to be stories for little ones. It's going to be stories like these that appeal to everybody. I think all the stories appeal to everybody, but we're going to have, it's going to be, you guys are going to like it. I know you're going to love it. And we are also going to have the first thing you said about being able to read, addressing those things as well, making sure that foundational literacy, little nuggets of that are present for our children, because that is very important, that strong foundation. And again, these conversations will be here, and we're going to be encouraging you guys to tune in. And you're like, how are y'all doing all that? How are you going to do all of that? Well, we're going to do all of that, and we're doing all of this for all of you. So as it gets closer, we'll be dropping that information, and we want you, what you can do to help us is to tell a friend, tell somebody who knows somebody, so that we can grow this village and make sure that this opportunity is there for more and more of our children and families. Okay, we are working hard. I'm busting my little behind to make sure that you guys get this type of quality programming, because you matter. You matter to me. You matter to us, and our babies matter, our families matter, our communities matter.
Well said. And I can testify to you're not just you aren't just working off of butt, you're kicking butt too. So
got me working day and night. Got me working. I feel like Michael Jackson. And got me working day and night. All right. And what do you mean? Are you trying to say that I'm kicking your butt, Mr. Ryan?
I didn't say that at all. I was just simply acknowledging that a lot of work is getting done.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sleeves rolled up. Yes, because our you all deserve that. Our babies deserve that. So we are so excited. Like I am. I can hardly contain myself about these things that we're working on, but it takes time. We'll let you know. We'll have more information next week. We're a little cryptic right now, right? Like, what are they talking about? But it will all start to make sense, okay? But we are glad to see you all dropping through here. We have missed you guys. We were up here 5 days a week for a long time, and now we've dropped down to 1. But that's another thing as we talk about this. You'll be seeing more of us. You'll definitely be seeing more of us, and we look forward to seeing more of you. And those of you who have children, the way this programming is coming out now, make sure that you have your children present. So if you guys are eating right now during this time, if it's TV time, put the devices down, because what we have coming is something that you definitely want to bring your little ones into it as well. It's a great family time, okay? So with that said, we are getting near our time. And again, wonderful. Miss Tiffany dropped her email. And let's see. She said she is blessed, so blessed and ready. She said her books are in. Yippee! And she dropped their email address, so she's not playing. And then Daryl said, you guys are great, and you are great as well. Again, glad you all stopped by, and we look forward to seeing you guys regularly with these things that we're working on. Mr. Jordan, I'm going to let you have the last word to take us out of here tonight on this fall. We're in the fall. It is fall now. So on our first fall night of 2020.
First fall night, and also I think our last night in the month of September. So I think when we meet again, it'll be October. I just want to maybe end with where we started. We came together and put this effort, brought together this virtual village in some respects in response to the pandemic that just came upon us. We are still in that pandemic today. We know that there's virtual learning that is out there, hopefully taking place. But we want to be a support. We want to be a support to our children and to our families. I was on several conferences today dealing with education. One of the conferences I was on, one of the commissioners from the Federal Communications Commission was there talking about the homework gap, a phrase that she coined to talk about the fact that there are significant communities, often communities of color, low-income communities who are just disconnected and who are falling further and further behind in terms of this gap, this homework gap. If you have access to the technology, if you have support systems, children can do well. So this virtual village is just part of us being able to close not only the homework gap, but also to leapfrog our children so that they are at the front of the race, not at the back of the race, trying to close some gap that somebody else has already started. We need the entire virtual village to be a part of this. As Ms. Starr said, she has dedicated herself and her organization to this task. We need the village. We need to stop talking about it takes a village, and we need to demonstrate that we are that village. So I just look forward to moving forward. We're going to try some new things. We're going to integrate some new things. We always welcome your ideas and your innovation. We are just determined that our children are going to be successful from this point and moving forward. But it's going to take a lot for us to achieve that. Systems aren't always designed for our success. We have to design our own systems for our own success. This is a place where we can come and design that system.
You better say that. You better say that, Mr. Jordan. But there's nothing left for me to say. Mr. Jordan said a whole word there, and definitely create our own system. And I agree, that is exactly what we are doing here. And it is a system that only works when we are all a part of it. So we all have a part to play, and each one of you brings something beautiful. And we want you to bring those beautiful children in your lives as well, because it's a wonderful place for families to come. Just stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Us.
It is up to us. Yeah. So we're building it, and we hope you guys will come. So you guys have a wonderful evening. All right. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Be well, stay encouraged, and fight the good fight. The skills that you have, what you are good at, don't be deterred. Go hard. All the angst, the hurt, the anger, whatever you feel, give it your all and let it fuel you to make our communities better and stronger. All right. So y'all have a good evening. We love y'all. Peace.
Look, mommy, community in action. What on my little sound of that? Look, daddy, there's a book for me too. But on my little sound of that. Creative, affirming, and culture for me too. Look, granny, a little sound of that. Look, granny, a little sound of that. Look, granny, a little sound of that. Learning, exploring my history, you see. Look, mommy, a little sound of that. We confident, we practice and develop fluency. Look, daddy, a little sound of that. Families, they bonding and representing me. Look, granny, a little sound of that. Look, I'm here, a little sound of that. Nice, I see a little sound of that.
So reliable, culturally relevant. Sit back and listen listen to the wisdom while we represent. So reliable, culturally relevant. Readers to leaders, they hold it down where they have to sit. Whole reliable, culturally relevant. Sit back and listen to the wisdom while you represent. So reliable, culturally relevant. Readers to leaders, they hold it down, yeah, they have a sit.
Look, mommy, give me the read in action. Well, on my little sound of that. Look, daddy, there's a book for me too. Well,